everyone. In today's class, we will be focusing on polygenic inheritance. As the name itself says that it is made up of two words, one is poly and the other is genes or genic that we are going to talk about. Poly means many and here we are going to talk about genes. So we will be talking about many genes at once which are responsible for certain sort of इनहेरिटेंस. हम कुछ ऐसे जीन्स की बात करने वाले हैं जो कि रिस्पॉन्सिबल है इनहेरिटेंस के लिए, जो कि एक नहीं दो नहीं बट दे आर प्रेजेंट इन मल्टीपल नंबर्स. लेट मी टेक यू अ लिटिल बैक. अभी तक जो हमने बात करी थी, वी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट, सपोज आई हैव टेकन अ कैरेक्टर हियर, कैरेक्टर फॉर हाइट. Yeah, so in a plant, height character is there. Let me just label it, mark it on a chromosome. This is one chromosome and say the character for height is present at this position. Okay, so the gene for height is here. I'm going to write it like this. Yeah, but now we are going to talk about polygenes. Here only one gene was responsible for one character. Now what we are talking about is that many genes, polygenes. Suppose there is one character, say the skin pigmentation, our skin color character I am talking about. We will discuss it later, skin pigmentation. So now for skin pigmentation there is not going to be one, two, but three genes which are responsible for giving the color to our skin. Are you getting my point here? That what I am trying to say is that अब एक जीन नहीं, जैसा कि इस केस में था, only one gene was able to give this character, but here one gene, let's say A is here, A will not be able to give us skin color alone, or A and B will not be able to give us skin color. But a cumulative, or when they are present together, say A, B and C, when they are present together, they are going to give me the skin color. This is the basis of polygenic inheritance that I want you to know. That earlier we discussed that only one gene can give a character. Okay, but now we will be talking about many genes. Here I have taken three genes, A, B and C. The cumulative or the additive effect of A, B and C genes is going to give the skin pigmentation. A alone cannot give the skin pigmentation, B alone cannot give, and similarly for C, but when these three are present together, they can give our skin color. This is polygenic inheritance. Now let me take you towards the definition of it for better understanding. Polygenic inheritance is defined as the quantitative inheritance. I have written the keywords in red letters so that you will be able to understand it better. It is defined as the quantitative inheritance. When we talk about quantity, then there is going to be some relation with the number here. So here we will be focusing on how many. Yeah, so we are going to see that how many genes are present. Quantity is an important criteria here for any character to express itself. So it is defined as the quantitative inheritance where multiple independent genes, multiple genes are there, say the genes A, B and C. These three genes are present for a character which are also independent. They are present independently of each other, have an additive effect. Additive means that alone A cannot do anything, B cannot do anything, but when they are present together, A, B and C, they are going to give some effect, or I can say some expression for a character. So they are going to give an additive effect on a single trait. The trait that we are talking here is the skin pigmentation. So this is the definition of polygenic inheritance. As many genes are present here, this type of inheritance is also known as multiple gene inheritance. So do not get confused if any name comes in your exam. Quantitative inheritance, polygenic inheritance or multiple gene inheritance, one and the same. So students, the genes which are responsible for causing polygenic inheritance are termed as polygenes. Now what these polygenes are, let's see. It is a gene whose individual effect on a phenotype is too small. One thing that ये एक ऐसा जीन है, it is such type of gene whose individual effect, meaning that if A is present alone, B is present alone and C is present alone, their individual effect, meaning that their separate effect is very small, is negligible. That what it is trying to say here is effect on what? Effect on a certain phenotype. Phenotype means the physical appearance or the physical character that we are talking about. So the character that we are talking about here is skin pigmentation. Simply these are those genes whose individual effect for a phenotype, that is skin pigmentation, say for hair, is too small to be observed, but which can act together. But when they will act together, all the three genes, if in this case with others, to produce an observable variation. But when they are present together, they are going to produce such a phenotype which can be, really observed and which is going to show a variation. Last thing that I want you to know in polygenes is that the intensity, or I can say the number of polygenes, is very important in defining the phenotype. So you can write it down that the intensity, or I can say the number of polygenes, determine the expression of certain characters. This you have to remember. In humans, there could be various examples which are seen for polygenic inheritance. A few I have written here for you. One is skin pigmentation. Next is your height. Third could be your eye color, your intelligence, and etc. Many examples could be here, but we will be focusing on skin pigmentation. So the example that we are going to take today to understand polygenic inheritance is going to be of skin pigmentation. Before starting skin pigmentation, there are 2-3 things that I want you to understand. Okay, just now I told you that polygenes or the multiple genes are going to show their effect when they are going to be present together. Suppose on this chromosome there are multiple genes present. When they are present individually, the effect is not going to be there, but when they are going to be present together, we are going to see a phenotypic effect. Okay, one thing. Second thing, if I talk here, then ma'am, what are the genes that we are going to talk about here? So there are going to be 3 genes which are responsible for our skin pigmentation. Let's see what these are. So the genes, number one thing that I am going to write is genes responsible for skin pigmentation are your A gene, B gene and C gene. One thing, now they could be present in 2 forms. Either they could be dominant, representing it like this, or they could be recessive. We can represent them like this. This you have to remember. Next thing that I want you to remember before moving forward is the intensity or the number of these genes is going to be very important, just what we discussed when we were discussing polygenes. So the intensity or the number of dominant and recessive alleles is important in giving the phenotype. How many dominants are present and how many recessives are present, this is important. Why I am talking about how many? Because it is ultimately the quantitative inheritance. Quantity is going to matter here. So let's see what all variations, what all possibilities could be there. Just now I told you that when we will be talking about skin pigmentation, there are going to be these three genes A, B and C that we will be talking about, and these are present in both the dominant and the recessive forms. Okay. But one more thing that you have to understand here is that the dominant ones are responsible for the production, you can write it down, for the production of melanin in your skin. This melanin is ultimately going to give your skin its color. So this word is important here. The dominant genes are going to be responsible for the production of melanin. Okay. Now, one more thing that I want you to know here is that this melanin or the number of dominant genes are going to define the skin color. Let me put it this way, that in our population you must have seen that there are individuals that are dark, okay, or say that are black, and there are individuals who are fair, very fair, or we can say albinos. Yes, so in our population a huge variation of skin pigmentation is seen from black to white. Now why this variation is there, why so much of skin pigmentation or so much of color difference is there? Students, this is because of the presence of these dominant genes which are present in an individuals, which are responsible for production of melanin. Now I am going to make a table here for you, and from that table you will be able to understand this concept. What I have put here is, let me first tell you that I have placed the gene A, B and C here for you, which are actually responsible for the skin pigmentation. Then we are going to see the genotypes that are going to be possible, and after that the phenotype. So here we are going to be listing all the possibilities of gene combination that could be there. So the number one possibility of the gene combination could be that both the A genes are dominant, both the B genes are dominant, and both the C genes are also dominant. Okay, now if I want to write them together, can I write it like this? Yes. Okay, now how many dominant are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So I am going to write it here, that 6 dominant genes are present here. Remember this. Okay. Next thing that you should understand here, that when all the dominant genes are there, there is going to be production of melanin. All are going to be producing melanin. Can I say that maximum melanin production is going to be there? Yes. So when maximum melanin production is going to be there, the resultant phenotype or the person is going to be black. Clear? So the melanin production, I am writing it here, is maximum. Clear? Now we are moving towards the next possibility. Let's see. Say A is dominant, B is dominant. In C, one of the gene is recessive. That one of the parents' chromosome has the recessive one. So here the possibility of the genotype is going to be like this. Yes. How many dominants are there now? 5 dominant. Clear? So the genes which are going to be producing melanin are how many? 5. Still there is going to be very much, more melanin, but now the person is not going to be black. Now it is going to be very dark. Clear? Little less melanin. Third case, if we talk about here, say still both are dominant here, but in this case now, this can be with any of them. I'm just telling you the number which really matters, the quantity which matters. So can I write it like this now? How many dominants are there? 4 dominants are there. So the skin pigmentation or the phenotype is going to be dark. Clear? Now there could be another possibility wherein, say, one is recessive here, one is dominant here, one recessive here, dominant here, recessive and dominant. It could be either ways, but how many dominants are there? 3 dominants are there and 3 recessives are there. So I am going to write it first like this. Okay, so now ma'am, when equal number of dominants and equal number of recessive genes are present, so I am going to be calling it as intermediate skin color. The person is going to be showing intermediate skin color. Remember this, when 3 dominant and 3 recessive are present, this comes in your exams pretty much. Next case could be, say, these all are dominant, this is recessive and this is recessive. So the possibility could be like this. How many dominants are there? 2. So the person now is going to be fair. Clear? Because the melanin production has decreased, which is why we are moving from this range to this range. There is going to be only 2 genes which are going to be producing melanin. Next case, wherein only 1 dominant gene is there. I am only writing the dominant ones. Recessive is easily understood. So I am going to be representing it like this. Only one is producing melanin. That means the person is going to be very fair. Clear? Next and the last possibility could be when the person has 0 dominant alleles, meaning that none of the dominant genes are present. Does this mean that there is not going to be any melanin production? Yes, as no dominant gene is present, the melanin production is not going to be there, which is why the phenotype is going to be albino, the white ones. Okay, so you have to remember this table, that the number is important, which is why we call it as quantitative inheritance. And because of the number, there is going to be variation in the melanin production, and because of melanin production, we see various range of skin pigmentation, which is from black to white. You have to remember this down. Also, there are topic-wise worksheets available. Kindly leave a comment in the comment section if you wish to avail the same. So don't forget to like, subscribe and comment below. Also hit the bell icon so that you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you.